The gun was already in his hand before his eyes were open. Kang Hyun-soo tore through the hallway at 3:17 in the morning, barefoot on cold marble, every nerve in his body screaming something ancient and desperate. The screams were coming from everywhere, from the walls, from behind closed doors, from the hollow space inside his own chest. He kicked open the first door. Empty. Kicked open the second. Empty. He moved through the corridor like a man trying to outrun his own shadow, checking rooms with his weapon raised, his jaw locked so hard the back of his teeth ached. Nothing. There was never anything. He stood in the middle of the hallway as the screaming faded, always faded just before he could reach it, and the silence that replaced it was worse. It always was. He lowered the gun slowly, and the hand holding it did not shake because Kang Hyun-soo did not shake. Not in front of anyone, not for anything. Below, the sound of rushing feet. His staff had gathered at the base of the staircase the way they always did, clustered and pale, no one speaking, no one willing to be the first to look directly at him. He descended 3 steps and stopped. A maid in the corner, the new one, the one who'd arrived 3 days ago during the chaos of 5 others quitting at once, was not huddled with the rest of them. She stood near the entrance hall alone, one hand resting on the wall, watching. Not watching him, watching the far end of the upper corridor. He followed the line of her gaze. At the very end of the hall, barely visible from where they stood, was a door. Bronze, old, sealed with 3 locks. His chest did a thing he had trained himself to ignore. She was the only person in the room who had noticed it. And she was watching it the way someone watches a place where the air is wrong, not with fear, but with the quiet attention of someone already assembling an answer to a question no one had asked yet. Hyun-soo turned away and walked back upstairs. He did not sleep. By morning, the head housekeeper had distributed the floor assignments. The new maid, her name was Adiz, the housekeeper said, recently arrived from overseas, experienced, no complaints at previous posts, was assigned to the private floor. The private floor. His floor. 3 others had refused it in the past month alone. She accepted without comment. She arrived at his study at 9 in the morning. He was already at his desk, working through ledgers and correspondence, a stack of signed orders at his elbow, 2 phones face down beside the lamp. He did not look up when she entered. She cleaned without sound. He had developed a precise sensitivity to disruption, to things being moved out of order, to people who hummed or shuffled or breathed too loudly in shared space. This woman moved the way water moves, present, purposeful, unremarkable until you stopped and looked directly at it. She touched nothing on the desk. She cleared the broken glass near the window without comment. When she passed close to the bookshelf, she dusted in even strokes without disturbing a single page. He signed another order, set it aside, signed another. When she reached the far end of the room and crouched near the base of the east wall to collect the debris there, broken pieces from a lamp he'd put his fist through 3 nights ago, he finally looked at her. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at the claw marks in the edge of the desk. Long, deep grooves where his fingers had locked into the wood during one of the episodes. She didn't react to them. She just noticed them, the way you notice a crack in a wall, filed it somewhere behind her eyes, and moved on. He looked back at his papers. Later, after she had gone, he realized she'd also removed the whiskey glass with the broken rim without waking him to ask. She'd replaced it with a clean one. Said nothing about the blood stain on his left cuff. Said nothing at all. That evening, for the first time in weeks, he ate the food that was placed in front of him. She came back the next morning, and the morning after that. On the fourth day, she arrived while he was still in his bedroom, awake since the previous afternoon, eyes like stone, sitting in the chair by the window in yesterday's clothes. He heard the door open and said, without turning, "Get out." She opened the curtains. Sunlight came through so fast and so hard that he actually flinched. He turned with the specific kind of fury that made grown men apologize for their own existence. "I told you to get out." "I heard you." She moved to the second window. "Darkness clearly isn't helping." He was on his feet. "Do you know who you are speaking to?" "Yes." She turned to face him then, fully, without any performance of calm, just genuinely unbothered in a way that was more insulting than defiance would have been. "I'm speaking to someone who hasn't slept in 2 days and is approximately 1 broken glass away from a migraine. Sit down." He did not sit down, but he also didn't fire her. He stood there in the flooding morning light and watched her move through his room, collecting the untouched sleeping pills on the nightstand without touching them, changing the water in the carafe, straightening the edge of the blanket that had been dragged to the floor. "You're going to tell the housekeeper about the pills," he said. "No," she said. "I'm going to pretend I didn't see them, like I'm pretending I didn't see the marks on your knuckles." She paused near the doorway. "Like you're going to pretend you didn't just consider sitting down when I told you to." She left. He sat down. The tea appeared at 2:50 in the morning on the 7th day. He was in his study when she came in without knocking, set the cup on the corner of his desk at the exact edge of his reach, close enough to take, far enough not to intrude, and then turned to leave. "I didn't ask for this," he said. "You didn't ask for any of it," she said, and left. He looked at the tea for 4 minutes, then he drank it. At 3:17 the screams came. They were softer that night. He still didn't sleep, but for the first time in months, he stayed seated instead of running. He sat with the empty cup in his hand and let the sound move through the dark and fade the way it always faded, and told himself he didn't know why it was easier to endure with the smell of chamomile still in the air. It became a routine before he noticed it was one. She came in the mornings. She cleaned while he worked. She replaced whiskey bottles with water on a Thursday, and he watched her carry them out and said nothing. The water was cold, always the right temperature, always in the same carafe. The tea came at 2:50. The curtains opened at 9. His breakfast appeared at a time he had not specified, but that turned out to be exactly when his focus broke each morning, the small biological lull between his first and second hour of work, as though she had timed it to his internal rhythm without asking. He caught himself listening for her footsteps in the corridor. He did not examine that too closely. On the 11th day, during the working silence of early evening, she found him gripping the desk edge during one of the episodes, the ones that came without warning in the daylight hours, quieter than the nightly screams but more dangerous somehow, because they arrived without ceremony. His knuckles had gone white. His jaw was locked. He didn't notice she had crossed the room until he felt her fingers close over his wrist. He reacted the way he always reacted, violently, jerking back, pushing her hand away. She did not flinch. She waited one breath, too, and then reached forward again. "You're bleeding," she said. He looked down. He was. The pressure had reopened a cut from 3 days ago. She took a cloth from her apron and wrapped it. She didn't speak while she did it, and her hands moved with the steadiness of someone who had done this kind of thing before, not this specifically, but the thing underneath it, the attending to a wound that the wounded person refused to acknowledge. He watched her work and felt something in his chest do something unfamiliar and inconvenient. When she tied off the cloth, he didn't pull his hand away immediately. He didn't know why. She looked up and their eyes met, and neither of them said anything, and the room held them both for exactly 1 moment too long before she released his hand and stepped back. "The cloth will need to be changed by morning," she said. "I know how wounds work," he said. "I know you do," she said. And there was something in her voice that said she meant more than just the cut on his hand. On the 14th night, she was still in the study at 3:00 a.m. reorganizing the reference shelves. He had told her he didn't want them reorganized. She had said she was putting them back, not reorganizing them, which was technically different when he spoke without looking up from the page he was reading. "You're going to ask me eventually," he said. She didn't pretend not to know what he meant. "I know. You've been not tasking for 2 weeks. You weren't ready 2 weeks ago." He set the page down. The lamp between them cast a line of light across the desk like a border. "What makes you think I'm ready now?" She didn't answer right away. She placed a book back on the shelf with her back to him, and he watched the line of her neck, the quiet architecture of her posture, the way she moved as though the weight she carried was perfectly distributed. Then she turned. "Because you drank the tea before the screams tonight," she said. "The first 2 weeks you always waited until after. Tonight you drank it before, which means part of you already knew they were coming and decided to sit still." She held his gaze. Something changed. The clock on the wall read 3:14. He said, 6 years ago there was a fire. She sat down in the chair across from the desk. She didn't move closer. She didn't reach for him. She just sat with her hands folded in her lap and her eyes on his face and gave him the kind of silence that has room in it for whatever needs to be said. "I had enemies," he said. "That is not a metaphor. That is a fact of my life and the life I built." He paused. "There was a man, part of my inner circle for 11 years. I trusted him the way you trust architecture. You don't think about it. You just put your weight on it." Another pause. "He sold information. To people who wanted leverage over me. People who thought the best way to break a man like me was not to come at him directly, but to threaten what he hid." "What were you hiding?" "My sister," he said, "and her daughter, 3 years old." His voice did not change. It stayed level the way the surface of very deep water stays level while everything underneath it moves. "I had kept them out of my world deliberately. Separate house, different name, no connection to me on paper. But he knew, he'd known for years." The muscle in his jaw moved. "The night it happened, I got a call. I moved them to the mansion immediately. It was supposed to be safer. It was always safer. The whole floor secured." He stopped. "You put them in the room at the end of the corridor," she said. He looked at her. "I've been cleaning this house for 2 weeks," she said quietly. "The bronze door is the only thing in this building you won't look at directly. Whatever is behind it, you put something precious there, and something went wrong and you haven't gone back." He was quiet for a long time. The clock moved to 3:17. The screams came, but this time he didn't move. He sat with his hands flat on the desk and his eyes on hers, and she sat across from him and said, softly, "Keep talking." Not as a command, as an offering. "I was in the south wing," he said, over the sound of the screaming that only he could hear. "There was a commotion near the gates, something designed to pull me away from that floor. By the time I turned around, the smoke was already in the corridor." His voice dropped to something that barely had shape. "I heard screaming, real screaming, and I ran, but I was too far, and by the time I reached that end of the floor, the screams had stopped." "Were they?" "They were found safe," he said. "Smoke inhalation, nothing more. They were evacuated by one of my men from a side exit I had forgotten about." He exhaled slowly. "I didn't know that for 40 minutes. She was still 40 minutes. "I stood outside that door," he said, and I believed for 40 minutes that I had killed them, that my choices had reached through every wall I built to protect them and destroyed the only people who were separate from all of it. He looked at the wall. They left the country that night, for their safety. They don't know about the screams. No one does. And the door. I haven't opened it since. The screaming faded. The room went quiet. His eyes were back on the desk, and she could see what it had cost him to say all of that, not in any visible way, not in anything that another person in this world would have been able to read. But she had been watching him for 2 weeks, and she saw the exact weight of the silence that settled over him afterward. She began to speak, quietly, without agenda. She told him about a flooding season in the city she grew up in, where the water would rise in the streets every year and everyone knew it was coming and prepared for it, and still, every year, it was startling. The way prepared and surprised could occupy the same body at the same time. The way guilt didn't care how reasonable you were. She kept speaking soft, even, present, until his eyes stopped looking at the wall and came back to the room. He fell asleep in the chair at 4:23 in the morning. She stayed where she was. She did not touch him. She sat with her hands folded and watched him breathe and didn't let herself think too carefully about the thing in her chest that had no clean name for itself. When he woke at 5:40, the first thing he saw was her still sitting there. His expression moved through something complicated before it locked shut again. "You stayed," he said. "You were asleep," she said. It seemed unkind to leave. "I don't need." "I know what you don't need," she said, standing, smoothing her apron. "I'll bring breakfast at 7. She moved toward the door. "Adiz." She stopped. "Don't tell anyone I slept." She didn't turn around, but he heard what he needed to hear in the pause before she said, "Tell anyone what?" If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. This story is just getting to the part that matters. Something had shifted in the house. It was not dramatic. It was the kind of shift that people who live in the same building with someone register in their bodies before they register it in their minds. The atmosphere changed the way air changes before rain. He was still cold, still controlled, still the kind of quiet that made people measure their words before speaking. But he ate. He moved through the house without the edge of a man about to break something. He came to the dining room twice in 1 week. The senior staff noticed. They said nothing because they were smart enough not to say anything. But they watched. On the 18th day, she was carrying a delivery of fresh linens through the main corridor when the head of housekeeping, a thin man named Cho who had held the position for 12 years and believed deeply in hierarchy as a system of personal protection, made a comment about her accent. It was the small, precise kind of cruelty that men like him specialized in, quiet enough to deny, loud enough to land. She didn't react. She kept walking. Hyun-soo came around the corner 2 seconds later. He had heard it. She knew he'd heard it by the particular quality of the silence that happened when he stopped moving, and by the way Cho's entire body went rigid. "Get your things," Hyun-soo said to Cho. "You're done." Cho opened his mouth, closed it, looked at the floor and then back up. "Sir, I only." "I know what you only," Hyun-soo said. "Get your things." The hallway was very quiet after Cho left. She stood near the wall with the folded linens and said, "You didn't have to do that." "I know," he said. "The household is going to spend the rest of the week trying to understand why you did." "Let them." He looked at her directly, with that steady, unhurried attention that he rarely gave anyone. "I dislike disrespect." She tilted her head slightly. "Liar," she said. The word landed between them and detonated quietly. It wasn't an accusation. It was something warmer and more dangerous than that, the kind of thing that could only pass between two people who had spent 18 days in close proximity to each other's real selves. He stepped toward her, not threatening, just closing space, and she held her ground, and the corridor was very still, and the distance between them was down to the length of a held breath. His phone rang. He stopped. She exhaled. He turned away to take the call, moving down the hall with his voice already clipped and businesslike, and she stood with the linens still in her arms and the peculiar ringing silence of a moment that had come very close to becoming something irreversible. She walked to the linen room. She pressed her back against the wall inside it and stood there for a moment in the dark. Then she put the linens on the shelf and went back to work. The storm arrived on the 22nd night. It came from the northeast, the kind that knocked power in sections, overloaded the backup systems, and made the older parts of a building feel like they were breathing. She was on the private floor restocking supplies when the lights in the east corridor went out in sequence, one by one, like a held breath released. She heard him before she saw him, footsteps coming from the south staircase, unhurried, certain, the sound of a man who knew the layout of his own house without light. "The storm knocked the backup relay for this corridor," he said, appearing in the dark with his phone screen casting a pale strip of light across his face. "The security team is working on it." "Then I'll finish in the morning," she said. "The bronze door," he said suddenly. She went still. "The lock is electronic," he said. "If the relay is down." From the far end of the corridor came a sound. 3 distinct mechanical clicks, one after the other, like locks disengaging in sequence. Neither of them moved for a moment. Then she turned and walked toward it. "Adiz!" His voice had something in it she had never heard from him before. Not command, not warning, something thinner and older than either of those. "You don't have to." "I know," she said. She had a lantern from the supply cart, one of the emergency ones she'd found while restocking. She lifted it off the cart and held it up. The light reached the bronze door just as she put her hand against it. It swung inward. She stepped through and stopped. The nursery had been frozen in the exact moment it was abandoned. A cot with small rails. A rocking chair tipped onto its side, never righted. Child drawings on the far wall, crayon lines of orange and green, shapes that were supposed to be animals, unmistakable and devastating in the way only the art of very small children is devastating. Tiny shoes near the base of the cot, both of them, placed together as if someone had set them there carefully in the middle of an emergency. Burn marks along the lower walls and the ceiling edge, not everywhere, not devastating, but present, recorded, permanent. She heard him behind her. She didn't turn around. She stayed facing the room and gave him the same thing she had given him that night in the study, space to be present without being watched. She heard him take one step through the doorway, then another, then the sound of a man's weight settling to the floor. She turned then. He was on his knees in the center of the room. Not collapsed, he didn't collapse, he was not built for collapsing, but kneeling, the way people kneel when the weight of a thing finally becomes larger than what they can carry standing. His head was not bowed. He was looking at the drawings on the wall. She came and sat on the floor a few feet away. She set the lantern between them. "They drew that the morning of the fire," he said. His voice was barely a voice. "My niece. She showed me before I left for the south wing. She wanted me to say which animal was which." His eyes didn't move from the wall. "I said the green one was a turtle. She said no, it was a horse. We argued about it." He paused. "I was going to come back and look more carefully." She didn't say anything. There was nothing to say that would help, and she was wise enough to know that. 6 years, he said. 6 years, she said. Something moved behind the far wall panel. Not a sound, a feeling, a wrongness in the air. She stood and crossed to the wall and pressed her palm flat against it. The panel shifted. Behind it was a small recess space no larger than a cabinet, and inside the space was a device she had never seen before, compact, older, wired directly into the house system with cables that ran into the wall in 2 directions. She knew what it was before she finished thinking about what it was. "Hyun-soo," she said. He was beside her in 2 steps. She pointed. He looked at the device for a long time. Then he reached in and pressed the manual playback switch. The screams filled the nursery. They were recordings. Clear, clean, digitally triggered, set on an automated loop to activate at 3:17 a.m. every night, wired into the speaker system of his private floor and his private floor alone. She watched his face as he listened to them, really listened, this time, and watched him understand. There were ledgers beside the device. She pulled them out, columns of numbers. Transfers in amounts that would have moved slowly enough to go unnoticed from any single account but totaled over 6 years to something staggering. Names she didn't recognize. And at the bottom of the last page, an initial, P. Park, Hyun-soo said. Park Seung-won. His voice was the coldest she had ever heard it, and she had heard it cold often. "He was my financial advisor for 11 years. She held the ledger out to him. He took it. He held it for a moment, and she watched the change happen behind his eyes, not rage, which would have been expected, but something more structural. The settling of a long-held question. The weight of 6 years of screaming and sleeplessness and guilt redistributed suddenly onto the right shoulders. "He kept me unstable," Hyun-soo said. "He kept me from sleeping, from thinking clearly, from trusting anyone, so he could move money, for years. And when you were awake," she said, "you were looking for ghosts, not for him." He looked at her then. In the lantern light, in this burned and preserved room, with the ledger in his hands and the device still warm behind them, he looked at her the way she had not quite let herself believe he had been looking at her for some time. Then his phone rang again. This time, he didn't look away from her while he answered it. "Send Park to the East reception room," he said. "Tell him I need him for a financial review." He paused and closed the gates. Park Seung-won arrived with 2 of the security team's corrupt members, men who had been on his payroll. It turned out, for almost as long as the screams had been running. He came in confident. A man who had spent 6 years watching Kang Hyun-soo come apart one sleepless night at a time was a man who believed he understood the architecture of this particular house. He was not prepared for a Kang Hyun-soo who had slept. Even 14 hours of sleep spread over 3 nights was enough. Even that small recovery had restored something in Hyun-soo that Park had spent 6 years systematically dismantling. Not strength. He'd always had strength, but clarity. The specific clarity that comes when the noise finally stops. "You look different," Park said, settling into his chair with the ease of a man who had made himself too valuable to fear consequences. "I feel different," Hyun-soo said. She had positioned herself near the side entrance with the ledgers. When Hyun-soo nodded, she placed them on the table. Park looked at the ledgers. Something shifted in his face, not guilt. He was past guilt, but calculation. The pivot of a man trying to find the new angle. "I can explain," he started. "I know you can," Hyun-soo said. "You're excellent at explaining. You explain the fire. You explain the screams. You explained why I should keep changing my security team and never quite find what was wrong." He leaned forward. "You're the reason I spent 6 years afraid to walk to the end of my own corridor." Park glanced at the two corrupt guards positioned near the door. A small flicker of reassurance. The reassurance died when those two men were gently removed from the room by four others, men whose loyalty Hyun-soo had recently had time to verify properly, was clean. "The maid," Park said, looking at her with the specific contempt of a man who processes threat by attacking what he can't categorize. "You trust a maid." "I trust," Hyun-soo said simply, "someone who opened a door I was too afraid to open." Park was removed. The corrupt staff were identified through the ledgers over the following 48 hours. The house changed, not overnight, not perfectly, but it changed the way rooms change when the source of bad air is finally found and removed. 3 weeks later, the nursery was opened again, not as it had been, preserved and sealed and heavy with all the grief that preservation implies. It was cleaned gently. The burn marks remained. The drawings remained. The small shoes were placed on a proper shelf. A window was cut into the south wall so that light could reach the room in the afternoon. Fresh flowers were set in a simple vase on the rocking chair, which was righted and set near the window. His sister sent a photograph of his niece, 12 years old now, gap-toothed, holding a very clearly identifiable drawing of a horse, with a message that said they were ready to come home when he was ready. He held the photograph for a long time. If this story has stayed with you, if you found something in it, leave a comment telling me. What was the moment it changed for you? And if you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Every story on this channel is built to stay with you. On the 31st night, she was in the kitchen at 2:47 in the morning. Not because it was her job was mostly done, the floor was clean, the crisis was over, but because old habits, like old grief, do not dissolve in a single clean moment. She was making tea. She heard him before she saw him, footsteps that had become as familiar as the sound of her own breathing in a quiet room. He stood in the kitchen doorway. He was in a plain dark shirt and trousers, no jacket, no armor of formality. He looked, for the first time since she had met him, like a man who had simply woken up and walked downstairs without preparation, without the business of assembling himself for the world. "You're making tea," he said. "I'm making tea," she said. He came and leaned against the counter and watched her work. Neither of them spoke for a few minutes. "My sister calls now," he said. "3 times since the week it happened. My niece argued with me about a drawing again." He paused. It was a horse. It was clearly a horse. She laughed, a real one, short and unplanned, and it moved through the kitchen like something that had been waiting for a room to exist in. He watched her laugh, something in his face that she had not seen before and could not fully name. "If I sleep tonight," he said, "will you still be here in the morning?" She looked at him. The kettle had begun to steam. The kitchen smelled like chamomile and rain. Outside, something was settling the city, or the night, or the long-held breath of a house that had spent 6 years waiting. "Only if you ask properly," she said. He was quiet for a moment. Then, with the very precise difficulty of a man who had spent his entire adult life needing nothing from anyone. "Stay." She turned off the stove. She poured the tea. She set a second cup on the counter beside his. "Sit down," she said. He sat. She sat across from him. They drank their tea in the kitchen with the lights low and the night outside the window beginning, somewhere at its edge, to soften toward morning. At some point his cup was empty. At some point the room went quiet in a different way, a full quiet, not an absent one. At 3:17 the house was silent. He slept until sunrise.